In this episode of NanoCruising, we dive into the inspiring journey of Derek, the visionary founder of Scruffie Marine. Discover how he turned his passion for simple, effective boat design into a thriving business. We discuss the use of launching his boats, the impressive performance, and his exciting plans for expanding into North America. Plus, learn about his innovative zero-carbon initiatives, including solar panels that are paving the way for a sustainable future in boating. Today we have Derek Ellard from Scruffie Marine. Welcome, Derek. And we'll start at the beginning. I read some of the items about you and so on. And one of the things that I read, it said that Scruffie started in a perfect storm of multi-adversity. What did you mean by that?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for being here with me. It's a great pleasure. Always keen to help international relations within the small boat community. Yeah, a perfect storm.
Yes.
In the late 80s, we were quite successful. We had 3 businesses. We had a bit of property. We were cruising along very nicely. And nature threw a curveball in terms of a big recession in Australia, and we lost a lot, including my marriage. And I might say, God, I miss the companies.
I can relate to that too. That's happened to me, to some of us too. So, yes.
But no, it was all sorts of things happened. So we have a phrase here in Australia, down on the bones of your ass, which basically means you got absolutely nothing. So from a point of nothing, I thought, I better do something about this. And the first step was to analyze what I was good at and what I really wanted to do. And in that analysis, which became a lot of notes and a lot of notepads, I realized that I was really passionate about designing and developing and problem solving. And I was really passionate about small sailing boats because I'd been with them all my life.
Amazing.
And yeah. So I thought, well, okay, let's get down to basics, real basics, and design a small family boat that could be used for a multi-purpose boat. It could be used for all sorts of things.
Right.
And that's how the original Scruffie 16 was born.
So the 16 was the first boat, correct? That's right.
The 16 was the first one.
The first boat,
yes.
correct. And again, yeah, that's great. It looks like a great design too. And we'll talk quickly about Scruffie Marine. If you can tell me about the origin, I know the story, but tell me the story of the name of. I know the story a little bit with the journalist, but tell me the details.
Well, if you design something new and innovative, and the local papers tend to want to know about it because they're always keen for a story. So the journalist came up to our rather scruffy workshop. He said, "What kind of boat is that?" I said, "Well, it's a do-it-yourself home boat kit without any pretensions, and a knockabout family boat that you don't have to stand on ceremony with." And he said, "A bit scruffy." And I said, "Yeah, a bit scruffy." He said, "Okay," and scribbled down "scruffy boat," and it stuck.
And the rest is history, as they say.
Well, the rest is history, except that many times I've tried to change it to something else, including deliberately bringing in new models which weren't called Scruffie, but everybody seemed to like it.
You started in the late 80s, that you're saying, right? So I know in America, North America, the boating business was really winding down and disappearing, actually. Just really not many builders that were left in the late 80s. So that was probably pretty challenging to start a boating business at that time, right? I don't know what the market was in Australia, but over here, definitely, that was a different market in the 70s. 70s where you could build and sell anything, I think, but it changed in the 80s. So how did you differentiate yourself and made a market for yourself, really?
Yes, I suppose I did, yes. It was something that I analysed a lot of the downsides of conventional boats. And in that research, I was once out watching somebody else launching and rigging a boat. It took nearly an hour and culminated with him being whacked around the head with an errant boom. And I watched his wife and children while he and his mate tried to rig this thing. The mast went up and there was a halyard right at the top, so the mast came down again. Mum wandered off with the kids to find an ice cream and then wandered back. And while they were launching it, the gust caught the boom and whacked him on the head. And it was a disaster.
Entertaining, but a disaster. Right.
Yes. And I learned some different words as well when these events.
Let's keep it a family show.
Yes, a family show. Eventually they got in the water, but I thought it was an object lesson on how not to do it. So I set myself a target to be able to rig and launch this boat inside 10 minutes, which I didn't actually achieve until the advent of the shimmy, which was an unstayed mast.
Right.
Lift up mast, plonk in hull, stick in wedge, hoist sail, put in water.
Right.
With a main sort of, and it worked and works to this day.
Right. So I guess the timing, and was that what drove, and I love the designs, is that what drove the practicality to use the probably more traditional, the gaff rig?
Yes.
And so that drove the simplicity of traditional boats, which obviously are different. It's not the Bermuda rig, but it's less complicated, not so many stays and so on and booms.
Yes, that's exactly right. I studied at the age of 16. I went to art school and studied fine art, but I was blessed with an art school which was really inclusive. They covered all sorts of things. In that time at art school, I learnt not only about art and design, but we did sculpture, we did sign writing, we did a short course on metaphysics, which blew me away and started a lifelong obsession with such things. But it was also a question of bringing forth the creativity.
Right.
And that was always stressed. And that was an important part of a good art school. So in bringing that creativity forth, I applied it to my inherent love of traditional working boats, which were still being used around the coast in the 60s.
Right.
The English sailing barges, there were still a few trading under sail in the 60s.
Right.
And there were lugsail-rigged fishing craft which had unstayed masts, quite big ones. And I love the simplicity of it.
I agree. I love it too.
And that's the thing, really. And there were boats that were launched off the beach in southern England. They were the beginnings. And the next thing was to retain. I reasoned that if you retain a timber keel, a laminated timber keel, an immediate basis for a boat when you're building it. We have the beginnings of a boat, and they can see it's the beginnings of a boat.
Right.
It's not a set of stations or molds, and it's the right way out, which is how boats should be built, in my opinion.
Right.
So that was the first thing. And then the next thing was the innovation of a slot system marine ply framework, which just slotted into the keel and formed the basic shape of the boat. And from then it was stringers around it. And the whole thing just sort of fell together, really. It seemed right. There's a saying in marine design, if it looks right, it is right. Right. That's how it all started.
And then I guess the 16 moved to an 18, and I guess that was probably your more successful design, which which Paul has made famous with the Kate Louise, but the Stornoway 18, I guess, is your most successful design.
Yeah, Stornoway 18, yeah.
Yes.
It started off as a grown-up Scruffie 16.
Right.
But over the course of time, the whole thing evolved in terms of the performance was not really there, so we increased the performance, faired the rudders better, deepened the keel slightly, whacked a bit more ballast in it, fine-tuned the rig. There's loads of little improvements over the years, which continue to this day.
Right.
I don't believe that you should drive around it in a 1990s car. We've come a long way. Without losing sight of the original idea, only making it better. So with the new boats, we've applied IKEA principles to it. And there's nothing wrong with that if it's done right.
And the instructions are a little better than IKEA.
Yeah, we'll have we'll have video instructions, and
Right.
no Allen keys
No Allen
will be
keys.
used.
Right, right. And then the next one was the Secret 20. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, chronologically, it went from the Scruffie 16 to the Stornoway 24, and
Oh,
then it went to I think we did the Stornoway 24 first.
okay, okay.
Okay, well, and that's saying the Stornoway 18 was the first. Okay.
Okay.
And then there was the Shimmy, and then at the same time, there was the 24, and then the Secret 20.
Yes, that's pretty successful
the-
as well, from what I understand. The Secret 20.
Yes, yes. It departed from the simplicity of the early rigs because that was a gaff rigged traditional racer. It was a mini racer, and they are pretty quick. But you can't launch it in under half an hour.
Right.
It takes a bit longer because there's lots of things to fiddle about with.
So it's more of a boat that you would keep on a mooring or on a marina, I guess, right?
Well, you would, yes. Most of them are still trailable. but
Trailable.
We
still
had them
trailable.
made
Okay.
trailerable, yes.
And tell me about the No Coast Boat
Yeah,
Works.
No Coast Boatworks, yeah. We've moved on with Scruffie Marine to No Coast Boatworks. They're the kit from here on in, but they're, because of CNC routing and all sorts of other modifications we've done to the boat, it lends itself to really well to export. So we can bring them back here, drive them up to Canada or wherever. And because the boats will be faster and better to windward and easier to build, we like to tick every box we can. And of course, there will be no petrol outboards will go anywhere near my boats.
Yeah, you were actually pretty early on with the torpedoes, right? So
yeah, we did. Yeah. We were an early advocate for electric motors.
Adapter of torpedoes. That's right. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. But what happened is that the progress of technology is such now that they've moved along dramatically. And, I've designed a small retractable electric pod drive which can clamp on a transom or fit underneath the counter stern.
Oh, I see.
So in other words, this is the engine that I always wanted. You can imagine the scene. It's getting a bit blustery. You're getting near to the shore. You're getting tired.
Right.
Drop the sails, put the engine on. This is not the time to lean over the stern and pull bits of string and fiddle about with petrol caps.
Correct. Correct.
And this system can have a small servo motor so that you could press a button and the thing goes down into the water. Pull your lever and the motor goes, and it's instant torque with electric.
Yes, absolutely.
And with the advent of much better batteries, it really is a no-brainer. So we've designed this with a view to making it available to all other small sailing craft as well as a viable option.
Okay, I haven't heard about these, so yeah, you'll have to provide me information about that. Is that available yet, or is that something you're working on?
Well, we've got the motor here. We've got the beginnings of it. I'm just waiting for one of my customers to bring a boat round so that we can actually put it on. But it's breathtakingly simple. The little pod is mounted on a track which slides up and down an aluminum tracks. It's basically goes down through a flexible slot and then up.
Right.
And then the simple lever forward reverse. That's it. It's breathtakingly simple.
That sounds brilliant. Looking forward to hear more about this technology. Absolutely.
Yeah. And we want to avoid the big, chunky, petrol-driven motor on a folding bracket that sits on the stern, an elegant stern of a nice little traditional boat. I don't know why people would ever want to do that, but they do. Everything's much better, and why not? That's the way it should be. And I go back to the example of a 1990s car. You really want to buy a 90s car? No, you want the latest one because you get in it, you turn a key and it goes. That's it, end of story. And the chances are it'll keep doing that, with minimal servicing and so on. Now, if you move to an electric vehicle, that's even better. It does it quietly and efficiently without trashing the planet. Yeah, whoopee, That's where I'm headed. And that's that's really important to me. Everything I do is to leave the planet in a better place.
How long did these kits take to build?
The record is 17 years.
That would be me. I'm much better at renovating a boat than building a boat.
That would be, and I'm not going to mention Nigel's name. Oh, sorry. But no, he's a professional cabinet maker too, which is even more embarrassing.
I find there's people that are builders and there's sailors. Some people just love to build both.
Actually, he's both. He's both.
Okay.
He's done a really good. He took his time over it. No, really? He took his time
17 years.
And did an immaculate boat, and he sails it beautifully. I guess the thing was that business and life got in the way of building the boat.
Of course. It takes a lot of time.
We can build a shimmy. We used to build a shimmy in 3 or 4 weeks, easy. And with the new systems that we've designed, it will be a lot easier and a lot quicker.
Let's go to some sailing stories of your boats or your clients. I know you've got a few good stories to share.
Yeah, a lot of good stories. Yes, a lot of people have had a lot of adventures with the thing. One I remember going out on a demo sail with one of my clients who was a professional skipper, and quite a few professional skippers, maritime professionals, buy our boats because of what they are. They're little ships rather than big dinghies. Mm-hmm. So we went out, because he was near where the customer was. I said, how about we go for a sail with this guy, a potential customer? So he said, yeah, we will. So the day dawned and there was a southerly steaming through, and then that became a near gale force southerly, white water everywhere.
Wow.
And the guy turned up and said, we can't possibly go out in this. And Jason and I looked at each. Well, we thought, well, why not? So we did. And to cut a long story short, it was pretty hairy. We had the Stornoway is really good because it's a yawl. So we were able to set a double reefed mizzen and a storm jib. And as such, she was perfectly okay in rough weather.
Right.
Her working boat DNA saw to that.
Right.
So we sailed up around and, perfectly okay. So, and then we brought her back and got her back on the ramp and on the trailer. And I said to him, well, what do you think? You're going to buy one? He said, oh, yes. And I'll tell you why. He said, well, there was one moment when you and Jason were talking about how well she steered herself, and nobody was steering it. We hit a big wave and we all ducked and white water over the bow. And he said, well, at that time you carried on talking and the boat carried on steering. And I thought, I'll have one of those.
That's a great story.
From flat calm to horrendous weather, they're a pretty reliable little ship. And I think that's important.
You mentioned something about, I've never heard of this, solar sail panels.
Yes. Well, it's technology again. What's happened this relates to my new business, which is Go Sail Cargo, sailing electric cargo boats. What's happened is that you've now got the ability to put thin film solar panels on sails. They can either be a stitch-on or Velcro on, possibly, panel, which is then wired down to your main battery system, actually sewn into the sail.
Interesting.
If these solar panels are high up above where your final reef point is, then you can still use them. So, and that adds quite a bit of useful solar energy into your battery banks.
On the sails, that's a new technology for me.
Yeah, that's a big plus. I mean, we've got it on the boat covers and a little portable one on the ship's cat.
Well, thank you so much, Derek. It's been wonderful talking to you.
It's been my pleasure, Stefan, and thank you very much for inviting me. It's great.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of NanoCruising, where we had the pleasure of speaking with Derek Ellard from Scruffie Marine. We hope that you enjoyed hearing about the innovative design and exciting zero carbon initiatives Derek is working on. If you enjoyed this episode, we would really appreciate it if you could take a moment to leave us a 5-star review. Your reviews help us grow and reach more fellow cruising enthusiasts. Plus, it lets us know what you're enjoying and what you'd like to hear more of. In our next episode, we'll be talking to Perry Eubank from the YouTube channel Ocean Capable Small Sailboat. And remember, you can always join the conversation in our Facebook group, NanoCruising, or visit our website, nanocruising.com, for more content and to connect with fellow cruisers. Thank you for your support, and as always, seize your own adventure.